You might wonder who this crazy dude is? Well, that's me, fooling around with my brand new lumber rack. The lumber racks I created turned out way better than I thought it would. I created it from just some scrap wood I've been collecting from my previous builds, some spruce and a lot of different sized low quality plywood sheets. I'm also very happy that I used a combination of spruce and plywood. It made the lumber rack look so much nicer than if I had just used one type of material. Anyway, this is how I made the lumber racks. The first thing I did was to make sure that all the spruce got the same thickness. I did this by running them through my planer. This was really easy and fun to do now when my planer was mounted on top of my newly built cabinets that I did in my previous build. I don't know why, but it's really enjoyable to watch the planks go through the planer. They come out so smooth and shiny on the other end. It's fun. Anyway, now I take all my planks and plywood pieces and run them through my table saw so they get all the same width. Now, cutting all these pieces took a long time, but it was well worth it in the end. This wood rack isn't really that complicated to build. In fact, it only has 5 different parts, and they all have the same width. When I cut all the pieces to the correct length, I used the miter saw for the longer pieces and the table saw sled for the shorter pieces. And as you can see, there was a lot of pieces to cut. And now to the fun part, the assembly. To make everything go as smooth and fast as possible, I had decided to make an assembly jig. The jig itself is nothing special, it's just a piece of MDF and a bunch of stop blocks on it. For some reason I decided to glue the stop blocks to the MDF. Or did I? That was a bad call, cause now I can't save the MDF for later use. So the solution was to use double adhesive tape instead. Now this worked out really fine because later on when I removed all the stop blocks, the MDF was totally unharmed. From this point and forward, it was really not much to say. I just applied some glue, nailed it in place, add a spacer, add the next block, nail that one in place, add a spacer, and kept on going like that until everything was done. And the assembly jig made everything go really fast, so I'm happy I made it. Oh, by the way, if you like this video, hit that like button, it would mean a lot to me and it would help this video to spread to other people as well. And if you want to make this lumber rack yourself, then you can find a link to the plans down in the description. When I had completed 2 parts, I put them to the side, lined them up and put a lot of clamps on them. And when the glue had squeezed out, I took some rags, cleaned it off, and in the holes I took a wet brush and brushed all the glue away. The assembly of the arms was actually really easy to do, because I already had the assembly jig ready to use. I did pretty much the same thing as I previously did. I put down a piece of spruce, add a spacer, then I glue and nail a piece of plywood to the spruce. I flip everything around, add a new spacer, glue and nail a new piece of plywood to the other side, and that's it. I trimmed off a little bit at the end of the arms to make them look a little bit better. I want to have a slight angle on the underside of the arms. Cutting this angle can be quite tricky unless you use a jig for it, and that is what I'm creating right here. This old floorboard I found is perfect as a base for my jig. I put one of the arms on top of the base and I position the arm so that everything I want to cut away from it hangs over the edge of the base. I then take a few wooden blocks that have tape on the other side of them, press them against the arm and then down into the base. This way I can remove the arm and put the new arm in place when I have trimmed off everything I need to trim up from the current arm. I run the jig through the table saw so that the 2 sides end up perfectly parallel, and I also do it to remove any stop blocks that hangs over the edge of the jig. Next up I turn the jig 180 degrees, add a piece of arm and push it through the table saw. Oh, that sounds wrong. I insert an arm into the table saw. That sounds bad. Piece of Anyway, this jig made it very easy to do accurate, repeatable angle cuts on all the wood rack arms. I will for sure use this jig, well, not this jig, but similar jigs in the future. I want to screw these lumber racks to the wall, and to do that, I first of all need to make some screw holes for the screw. That's what I'm marking out here. The screws I intend to use was a little bit short, so I'm gonna recess it down into the lumber rack a little bit. And after I've done the recess for the screw heads, I'm gonna drill with a smaller drill bit all the way through the lumber rack. I just have to say that these new cabinets I made for my machines are so handy to have when I have all the accessories just below the machine itself. Such a great fit, I love it. It's time to assemble the whole lumber rack now. All I have to do is to apply some glue at the end of the arms and then press them firmly into the slots I just made. And then I take a rubber mallet and give them a light tap at the top. You know, just to be sure that they are really in there. After all the arms have been inserted, I remove all the glue that has been squeezed out, and then I do a final check with an angle to confirm that the arms are at a 90-degree angle. And for the ones that are not square, well, too bad for them, cause I still have my rubber mallet. All the lumber racks are now complete, and this is the wall they will be installed on. First of all, I need to find all the studs. For that, I use a stud finder. Then, in order to determine the proper height for hanging the lumber racks, I utilize a rotation laser to draw a line on the wall. The only thing left to do now is to install the lumber racks on the wall. I start by lining up a lumber rack with the stud's location, and then I use the laser to make sure the rack is at the right height. When I know it is in the correct location, I screw it to the wall and the studs behind it. Okay, so that's it for this build. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you want to see what I will do next. Meanwhile, check out this video where I made my mobile tool carts you saw earlier in this video. Or maybe this video is more to your taste. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching.